governance, that can drive policies, that can drive the decisions of government to ensure that at every point in time, we're on point. So you see, the basic challenges are, okay, for instance, look at the UK alone. The revenue generated from education alone by the United Kingdom is what runs their economy. Yeah, it is part of the challenge. It is even part of their contribution to educational tourism, where most Nigerians even go there to obtain degrees and the rest of it. Are you getting me? So it's like we are trying to kill what is most valuable, which is that sector. Because without education, you and I cannot even be here to have this conversation. So in as much as we need, okay, imagine the world is moving, the world is fast moving. There is a new form of education, which does not even have to do with classroom and the rest. But if you check our curriculum, if you check what we are still operating, we are still operating mundane and very obsolete approach to education. And this is not helping. It tells you, that's why you see a lot of graduates come out and all they can think about is to do Yahoo, is to do one fraud, is to think of how to do one of things and the other. It's not supposed to be like that. Why? Because the basis for education, which is research and innovation, has been played to the back burner. Whereas these are issues that should have been the concerns of government at every point in time. And you say, so those who are managers of this sector already do not even see, in the first instance, they'll ask, what will it amount to at the end of the day? What will it actually amount to?
Okay, let's look at this issue. Still talking on this matter. Can we say that's the reason why they say to run for presidency or government or governorship, the criteria, educational criteria, is still very low, and it doesn't want to be up to saying you have to have a degree. Can we say that's some of the factors? Because we have people who get into power and they're less educated, so they can't see the value.
Mamadou, I must be frank with you. Truly speaking, education does not make one a good leader. I must tell you.
But wouldn't you make you appreciate the essence of...
That's the point. I just want to be balanced. Education does not make one a good leader. We have professors who have been given privilege to lead, and they have actually bungled the process. So we are not saying education is what makes you a good leader, but we are talking about basic foundational approach to leadership. Basic foundational approach to leadership. That even though in a country like Nigeria, the biggest black nation, the biggest black African nation, that we are still not laying emphasis, we are still not promoting leadership with best international practice. Let's even leave education. How about health, which is the welfare of your people, which has to do with the daily lives of your people. Right now, with all that government is saying, in fact, if not for the private sector that is running the healthcare sector, I tell you most solemnly that the death ratio in Nigeria would have been on the increase. Imagine that if you're in Nigeria and you don't have money, you cannot even have access to affordable healthcare. So these are issues that are, so yes, I also agree with those who are saying that it is because we are led by mediocres. That's why they do not even want to upgrade the standard for qualification of recruitment into leadership position, which is the fact that, we are still talking about SSC when we have dozens and dozens and dozens of graduates. And here we are still talking about, we should have surpassed that. In as much as we know, yes, like I said, education does not make one a great leader.
But it opens your mindset.
Thank you very much. But at least if we keep that as basic standards, we can begin to recruit from the best standard, minimum standard, which is that such a person should have a degree, a university degree, or a polytechnic degree, or whatever degree, that must have given you the requisite exposure that will allow you to process information and to be very broad-minded in terms of analysis, in terms of deposition, in terms of your expose with regards to how you perceive leadership, with regards to how you process information, with regards to how to even put a team together, the best minds that can actually be assembled to deliver on the mandate of a particular office or to deliver on the dividends of democracy, as the case may be.
All right, well said. Let's say it's no longer news that the Supreme Court yesterday did gave a landmark ruling giving financial autonomy to local governments in Nigeria. And just recently, we were told that the Senate President has said the National Assembly will work with the Attorney General of the Federation to address the lack of confidence in elections conducted by state independent electoral commissions as regards holding local government elections. Do we necessarily need the support of the National Assembly to work with the Attorney General for state, INEC bodies to be able to conduct free, fair, and credible elections so that we don't have interference from state governors? Or do you think INEC as national should be given the mandates completely to ensure a very effective elections?
Well, I think if I understand what that means, what the Senate President was trying to say,
yes,
was actually trying to give direction to that judgment that was given by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Because in that judgment, the Independent National Electoral Commission is supposed to conduct election as against state independent electoral bodies. And so what he was trying to say was that they are going to see how they can actually, the implementation of that act, since it's given that the National Assembly must do their oversight engagement.
Okay.
So that having been said, I want to commend this administration. This is one, yes, why it has actually been criticized by a lot of other stakeholders saying that it was going to look like there's going to be an interference between the federal government and the state, or taking interference from the state to the federal government, which means local government bosses will now be loyal to the federal government instead of the state government, as postulated by a few individuals. But I don't see that way. I don't see that way. I see that it's going to actually restructure the country in a way, because there will be this brain drain that we're experiencing, that everybody is moving towards urban centers.
Sure.
Will be paused in the first instance, because with direct allocation to local government, it will become more competitive.
So we're going to see more people vie for local government chairmanship and councilorship.
It will become more competitive, and you can trust me. A lot of people who are now in the city doing nothing will have to go back and begin to think, because with plenty of money, then they have to go and hold these people accountable and see what their contributions can be. So this is a direction we should be looking at. So this government should be commended on this note, because this is one very prompt decision that was initiated by the administration itself. It was the federal government who went to say, we want these monies to be deposited directly into, yes, even though part of the challenge is that it is not that this money was not accessible to the local government, but it was highly manipulated by state executives. In the fact that, you see, in some states, you just have the governor select his and picked local government chairman and ask them from time to time to just sign off, and then they withdraw this money and do whatever they want to do. So, but with what we have now, even local government must come under serious scrutiny. They must be held accountable for every penny. So the beam light, the searchlight will now shift. So that if you as a local government,
or be ready to begin to watch Global TV.
So keep watching Global TV, especially for updates on agriculture, food, commodities, and without food, there is no great nation.
So please watch Global TV, because it's going to change your life.
All right, welcome back, and we're deeply sorry for that very sudden breaking transmission due to some technical glitch, but we're happy to be back as the discourse continues. We are still talking with the president of Civil Society Groups for Good Governance in the person of Chief Dominic Ogako, who is helping us look at the different select issues. Yeah, you were talking about how key it will be for the scrutiny of local government chairman going forward, since now the monies will be going directly into their accounts. Do you still foresee state governors also still trying to manipulate the process or influence whatever decisions local government chairman would have to take?
You can trust me that it's not going to be easy. It's actually not going to be easy. You see, every positive change will be resisted by those who have been held captives. And I can tell you that at the level of local government, they are very willful captives. Some people will still have this mentality of thinking that it is only the governor that can make you a chairman without necessarily understanding the dynamics. You cannot take away the powers of the governor or the role they have to play, especially when it has to do with making local government chairman. So you can be sure that the dynamics will change, the approach will change. There will be, so in Nigeria, one of the first easiest thing to do is to recondition you to be loyal to the system. And so part of what will be done in the final analysis is that some of these people will be reconditioned. Those who are trying to vie for, they'll still need state support, state powers, state interventions. They'll still need endorsement from state governors to vie for these elections and all that. They'll still need the state. The governor is still the chief accounting officer of a state. He's still the chief security officer of a state. So in terms of security during elections and the rest of it, in terms of assessment, in terms of accessibility and the rest of it, these governors will still be as powerful as ever. But I want to believe that despite all this turbulence, it is actually a right step to go. And we are believing that, like every other change, it will be confronted with a very strong and stiff opposition. But at the end of the day, the people will always have their say.
All right, let's, time not our friend, but we're just through the first half of our discourse. Let's move on to something very interesting where the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, is in the news this evening with a very interesting data which tells us that a fresh report released by the National Bureau of Statistics has indicated that 721 billion naira was received as bribe by the Nigerian public officials in 2023. 721 billion naira was received as bribe by Nigerian public officials in 2023. The report, titled Corruption in Nigeria, Patterns and Trends, was released by the National Bureau of Statistics on Thursday. According to the NBS, the 721 billion naira paid in bribes across the country in 2023 amounted to about 0.35% of the country's gross domestic product. The report, which was based on the survey conducted with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, stressed that the average cash received by public officials holders in 2023 was 8,284 naira, an increase from an average of 5,754 naira in 2019. The report read in part, according to the 2023 survey, that the average cash bribe paid was 8,284 naira, Nigerian naira, and while the nominal average cash price bribe size increased since 2019. How disturbing is this? Well, 721 billion naira more of public officials in 2023. That's just barely a year ago, and that should be very disturbing.
Well, this report is subject to scrutiny. Because when I read it...
But this from the National Bureau of Statistics.
Listen, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I want to give my own view. Because I feel whether based on one or two criteria, they are just being economical with the truth. I feel that this figure is far more than what is captured in their survey. Yes, because I can tell you that bribery has become the order of the day. Part of what has increased some of these statistics is the fact that there's so much hunger in the land, there's so much poverty in the land, there's so much lack, there's so much hardship, and so almost everybody is scrambling for what they can get. So openly, public officials are now coming out to request for demand for bribe, you know, because of the scarcity, the paucity of resources. That has actually increased the level of people's desperation to actually survive. And so I feel that, well, I commend them for at least
being bold enough
to say this is a trend, the corruption trend and all that. But then they are still very being economical with the truth. I must tell you most solemnly, possibly it's because of the manpower and other factors that they were able to put it at this threshold. But you can be sure that Nigeria is actually going very serious trying times. And you see, with so much hunger in the land, people can do anything to survive. And I feel that That's why there's a wake-up call on this administration to begin to do the needful. Because if it's not very careful, it's going to get worse than this. It's going to really get worse. Because it looks like the hope is diminishing. The renewed hope is diminishing. Look at the cash crunch. Look at the lack of food. Look at the cost of food item. In fact, this morning when I was told the price of a bag of rice, the price of a bag of rice, 89,000 naira at Sahat store. 89,000 naira for a bag of rice. You know what that means? That's like people's 2 months salary. If you take on the average. So how do you get to that point?
The president a few months back said he wasn't interested in price control board. Do you think there's need for such now? And even with the 150 days suspension of import duties and taxes in order for people to import, and the federal government has said in 180 days prices would drop. Do you believe the federal government when they say such? And do you think that measure being implemented is good enough?
I don't know. For me, it looks like a to and fro or a back and forth movement. I feel that why is it that we are not thinking of? See, I don't know. I know that kind of this government means well for the people, but the government also appears a little bit stagnated, confused. Because, you see, I was thinking that the idea for shutting down our borders was to discourage importation. Because we have the capacity to be able to feed ourselves. We have the capacity to be able to manufacture the things that we need.
Don't you think that's an admission on the part of the government and security agencies that they cannot stop the insecurity? Because the insecurity is one of the key factors why people cannot go back to the farm.
So that is where I was driving to. So does it mean that we have just given up on ourselves? Does it mean that we have given up on the things that would have actually redirected us to the promised land? I was thinking that with the coming in of this administration, given a short time where Nigerians were actually considerate, Nigerians were really ready to take the suffering, knowing that in a short time we are going to appear at the promised land. Why does it look like when we are almost getting there, we are now reintroducing all the things that we have been kicking against? Why are we not trying to import rice and import the rest of it? With all that we know, with all that we're criticizing, with all that we're saying. So it bothers me. It gives me cause for concern. It looks like we are still experimenting when we should have known exactly where we are heading to. We are still experimenting. So what is the value of having shut our borders all this while? To what extent? Because with this window that has been given, what you are simply saying is that we cannot manage the situation any longer. I was thinking that what the government should have done was to come out and give hope to the Nigerian people, knowing fully well that they are on track. So with these decisions now, I am bothered, I'm worried. I'm beginning to believe that the government actually does not have a roadmap to take us to the promised land.
All right, a very sad commentary there. Let's move on to the talking point of minimum wage, where Mr. President has met with Nigerian workers and said they deserve improved welfare, better wages, as well as safe and enhanced working conditions as the driving force for the nation. Speaking with the leadership of the NLC by Joy Ajero and the Trade Union Congress in the person of Festus Osifo on Thursday in Abuja, President Tinubu said he is concerned about the welfare of Nigerian workers and that his administration is putting first the concerns of the workers, while the federal government is proposing 62,000. The organized labor is asking for 250,000. They still seem to have not shifted grounds, both parties. The federal government is saying they're committed to a better and a good wage for Nigerian workers. The organized labor seem not to be backing down. Do you see any way forward in this negotiations? Because they've shifted it to next week again.
the truth be told, we have to be very balanced at this point. You can be sure that even Labour itself knows that government at this point cannot afford to pay 250,000 naira. We understand the dynamics of our economy. We understand where we are as a nation. We even understand the paucity of funds. We even understand that this government is struggling to even survive. We just talked about the issue of importation and the rest and all that. So it looks like there have to be a quick deal between the two. I feel that what Labour should be basing the argument on right now is to accept the minimum wage as it stands at the moment and give government a few more time to reorganize and see how we can get out of the woods. Somebody said to me the other day, said, you think if government pays 250,000 naira, what will happen? He said the economy will crumble because, you see, inflation will be on the increase. And so even in dealing with this, we must understand the microeconomics of skills to be able to understand that we must not push beyond what is necessary. The Nigerian workforce, the public workforce, actually represent a very minimum amount of the demography of those who are working in Nigeria. I'm a private sector participant. I have employees under me. And so if government begins to pay 250,000 naira, what do you expect people like us to pay our workers? So this narrative must actually be put in proper perspective. I wanted to employ one of the staff the other day, and I was asking her, how much do you think I can pay you? And she said, 400,000 naira. I laughed. So I looked at it and I said, if you're asking me to pay 400,000, how much will I pay myself as the engine room of this organization? You see, so sometimes at the negotiation table, we have to take each other's side to be able to be balanced in it. I want government to take the side of Labour, to look at themselves from the prism of Labour, and Labour should also look at government from the prism of government.
Do you think we can have 100,000 naira as a balanced
well, I think government can do 100,000 naira. See, it's not just about the federal government. It's not just about the federal government. Yes, the federal government can afford to go that way, but a lot of other things will suffer. How about state governments who are already crying out that even the 62,000 naira that the federal government is negotiating, they cannot pay. Now, given the fact that the local government funds is now going to take away. No, Edo State is a unique state. You cannot even compare them to a lot of states. Edo State has a lot of things going for it. Do you get what I mean? So about states who are already complaining that they cannot pay even 62,000 naira. Do you get? So what are you saying? So we must be balanced in this discussion. And I feel that the only way we can be balanced is for the two sides to begin to look at themselves without any bias, without any coloration, without really thinking in terms of who is going to win, who is going to lose, who is a winner, who is a loser. We must see ourselves as Nigerians, and we must be able to come to that negotiation table patriotically.
To help the states, can the federal government, just as they pushed for this autonomy, can they push to say, going forward, those security votes will be split into two, so that half of it will now be channeled towards paying this new national minimum wage?
No, that's not even going to be the way to go. You and I had this discussion some time ago in your studio. The way to go to resolve most of these issues is very simple.
Okay.
Resource control. Allow states to control their resources. And pay subvention to the federal government.
Okay.
True federalism is what we need. So at that level, states can now decide what they want to pay their workers. And the federal government will only be there to supervise us. Big brothers. Do you understand? So, but if it's now coming from the federal government and there are weak structures under this federal system, what do you expect? So allow the states to control their resources so that even the people can know that, okay, this is what we are generating. But when you see they come cap in hand, trying to get from the federal government, you have all this kind of discussion, we cannot pay, we'll pay this, we'll not pay that. So allow the states to control their resources. There are states in this country, I tell you most solemnly, that can pay even up to that 250,000 naira that Labour is demanding. But there are states that cannot even pay 60,000 naira.
All right, moving on to the next talking point, let's talk about lawmakers who are probing suspended school feeding project. The House of Representatives has resolved to investigate the national homegrown school feeding program of the federal government 6 months after President Bola Tinubu suspended the scheme. The decision to probe the scheme followed the adoption of a motion moved by Mukhtar Zakari, APC Kaduna, during Thursday's plenary session. The House mandated 8 committees on special duties and finance to probe the program and report to the House for further legislative action. The school feeding program was introduced in 2016 as part of Buhari's administration's 500 billion naira funded social investment program. It was projected to provide 1.14 million jobs nationwide, including community women who would be engaged as cooks with support of state government. The program aims to support states to collectively feed over 24 million school children, making it the largest school feeding program in Africa. The goals include tackling poverty, improving health and education of children and other vulnerable groups, according to the 2019 government document titled Investing in Our People. Are you sad that this program has stopped? Because while growing up, remember, the school feeding program was also in place, and it did work. Do we hold
I don't know why we try to mismanage.
Do we hold the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs for always bounding this with corruption tainted in its?
You can be sure that the Humanitarian Ministry at this point, without the minister, has actually been immersed in high-profile corruption. Well, I believe that this probe, part of what this probe is aimed at doing, is to see if they can bring back the program. I think that if I have to talk to the lawmakers, I think this probe should, part of the recommendations at the end of the day, should be that the program should be reintroduced, especially given the food insecurity that is happening. Feeding a child at school is a very lofty idea. It's a mismanagement of this project, of this program, that is actually the problem. The program itself is lofty. It's a welcome development. It will assist. Imagine that the child knows that as I'm going to school today, I'm going to have lunch. I'll be fed at least once.
By my country.
By my country. That will stoke some level of patriotism in the child.
True.
You see, they tell us stories. If you listen to generations, they will tell you how they went to school without paying anything. They were giving books, free handout, free this, government. So they don't stop telling us those stories. Why can't we recreate that kind of situation for our people? Why can't we recreate it for our generation? Why can't that happen in our country? Why is it that every opportunity that Nigerians have to be able to be responsible, they will now use it as a way of putting the people into more trouble, of enriching themselves, of accumulating modern wealth that will not even pay in any direction? So I feel that part of what the National Assembly should do, the House should do at the end of the day, is to bring out checks and balances or put in place measures that will allow this program to run seamlessly without the interruption or without the corruption that has actually enveloped the entire program. So I feel that what the House is doing is a step in the right direction. But it should not just be that they want to probe. They should look at it and see how they can bring back the program in quick time. And ensure that the people, children, especially those in public school, we are talking about some of these children who go to public school. If you take a survey, some of them are really going through, some of them don't eat. Some of them are malnourished. So this is an opportunity for us to even stoke loyalty in these children and make them feel that the country cares. Do you know what it means to go and feed a child with the symbol of the Nigerian flag or the symbol of the country's consign? That will help in actually developing the child emotionally, psychologically, and otherwise to be loyal and to be committed to this country.
Well said there. Time not our friend, but I just want to get a quick take because Sokoto State, the Governor Ahmed Aliyu of Sokoto State Thursday assented to 6 new laws, including Ahmed Sokoto local government and chieftaincy law, which generated controversy across the country. The new laws stripped the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Sahad Abubakar, the power to appoint district and village heads in the state. This is like a fallback or ripple effect of what played out in Kano. How disturbing is this new trend?
Very, very disturbing. Very, very disturbing. You see, why is it disturbing? It's disturbing because part of what we have written to the National Assembly on constitutional amendment is constitutional role for traditional rulers.
Yeah.
There should be constitutional rule. Traditional rulers should not become puppets of state governments. That is really, really disturbing. You see, part of what is funny, what is fueling the insecurity in the north is the fact that traditional rulers have now become puppets of state government. Traditional rulers are supposed to be autonomous so that they can actually operate without the state government. So if state government are already interfering, like what is happening in Kano, imagine Kano. Look at the balkanization of traditional institutions in Kano. From the time of Ganduje to even now to the present government, it has become a feasting ground for them. That is very unhealthy. So I feel that we should begin to ascribe constitutional role to traditional authorities. They should be captured because they are even more closer to the people. They are closer if you understand the traditional structure. It can even resolve the issues of insecurity, job creation, even this food insecurity that we are talking about. These are traditional rulers can actually operate in that. But when you begin to cut their powers or usurp their powers or make them look less, you see, you are now making them featherweights. And so for me, I feel that this kind of law, in as much as the state government is trying to see how it can control and all that, for me, there is no need for too much interference between the governors and traditional institutions.
All right, well said. Time not our friend. Always fun having Chief Dominic in the studios making analysis of all the big talking points. I want to say a big thank you very much for joining us in the studio. He is the president of Civil Society Groups for Good Governance right here in Nigeria. My name is Anthony Momodu saying thank you for joining us on the program, The Desk. Good evening.
Global TV concept is the emerging, brand that everybody must watch. So I subscribe, and I'm prescribing that we must all be ready to begin to watch Global TV.
So keep watching Global TV, especially for updates on agriculture, food, commodities, and without food, there is no great nation.
So please watch Global TV because it's going to change your life.